Quatro, and my debut collection is called I Want to Show You More. So people often ask me, because I'm not from the South originally, if I consider myself a Southern writer, and I often have to answer that depends how you define Southern writer. I think if you define it as someone born and raised there, then no, but if it's a Southern writer is someone with unique concerns unique to the South, such as religion, the grotesque, the Gothic, racial tension, the Civil War, then I do think the term begins to apply. In our increasingly homogenizing America, sort of the Walmartization of our country, I wonder if it might be the transplants moving into certain regions who are able to see the regional distinctives that perhaps the people who've lived there for such a long time have become inured to. And in the end, it might be the transplants who are able to help preserve that regional distinctiveness. When people ask me, Amy Hempel and I talked about this, when people ask me, are you going to do a novel? You know, when are you going to do the novel? I always think, the novel's like a marathon. The short stories are like a half marathon, maybe poetry's like the 5K, and that each race, you know, I've raced all lengths, is its own race. You know, they're not, one is not practice for the next. So when people talk about the short story being practice for the novel, I bristle, because I think that, you know, just as the half marathon has its own demands, the full marathon has its own demands. I think it's a fascinating question in today's digital society. What constitutes infidelity when there actually is no physical connection? Many might say when you haven't even met the person, perhaps that isn't as bad as full physical infidelity. I think it's a lot easier now with social media and things like Facebook and texting, that it's so much easier to get involved in these illicit relationships than it used to be. And I think it's a challenge and something that we need to be in discussion about.
He kissed me and my right eye burned. After he left, I flushed it with cold water, but the burning grew unbearable, so that during the 2-hour shuttle ride to the airport, I had to keep both eyes closed. Like he put a seal on my forehead, I wrote to him later, and hot wax dripped down into my eye. I kept rubbing it, kept pressing my face hard into the back seat window, my headphones on, listening to the playlist he'd made for me the night before while we sat on his bed with our laptops open and saw pictures of his wife, their trip to Prague, Hank jumping off a diving board, pictures of my husband's birthday, the boys spray painting the number 40 on the garage door, the girls giving him the 40 Reasons We Love You poster they made. What we were saying, without saying it, here's why this can't happen.
Nobody wants to know if it's autobiographical. They want to know if the digital infidelity stuff is autobiographical.
Right.
No one's like, you know, hey, did you have a sinkhole on your chest? Or, hey, you know, did you die of cancer and your husband had to live on with your kids?